House is insisting that the economy is right where they want it to be.
President Trump's pro growth policies are making tremendous progress to make America affordable again. The economy is back on track and ready to boom over the next 3 years. Biden's inflation crisis is over. Prices are coming down. Wages are rising. The border is fully secure. And America's best days are to come. Everything I'm telling you is the truth, backed by real factual data.
And that comes after a new AP poll finds that 31% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy. That was the lowest point so far in his second term. But still, Trump is claiming that there is no inflation and asked when he'll get credit for the, quote, greatest economy in the history of the country. Natasha Sarin is here with us at the table. And Natasha, I'll get to you in a second, but I really do want to ask my friend Steve Moore over here. I get every White House, they want their economy to be great, but is that really what she should be telling Americans right at this moment? That everything is great and that it's all in their hands?
You know, I'm really flummoxed by these numbers, and I've seen these polls, and they are all very consistent that people don't like the way Trump is handling the economy. And yet, what the press secretary said is absolutely true. Almost every single indicator on the economy is really strong. I mean, we've had 4% economic growth. The average family after inflation, after taxes, is $1,200 richer than they were at the start of the year. We used to measure inflation at, the one barometer we always used was the gas price. That's down by about 30%, the lowest in 5 years. We have all this capital coming to the United States. The economy, in my opinion as an economist, is really set up for a booming year in 2026. And yet, the public doesn't, they're not seeing the love. And I don't know why.
The part of the problem, my dear brother, is that the indicators that you talk about really don't talk about the living experience of the folk. If you got 20% of your precious children living in poverty, you got 70% of those living paycheck to paycheck, and wealth inequality is escalating, and the indicators say things are magnificent. Democrats have said the same thing, lying. Republicans have said the same thing, quit lying. Both have been lying in that regard. And part of the problem of the profession of economics itself, they don't really look at the economy from the vantage point of the least of these.
Even if you look at the bottom 25% of the economy, their wages and incomes are up this year. So wage inequality is
Natasha, I want you to weigh in on that. Go ahead.
So I just I have to respectfully disagree deeply with what you're saying about what we've seen in the economy over the course of the last 11 months. To give the president credit where credit is due, he won an election in response to Americans feeling the pinch of inflation after the pandemic. And what he promised was we are going to see prices go down on day one. Every action that this administration has taken since getting into office has made the problems of inflation and affordability worse, not better. That has to do with immigration and restricting the labor supply, which makes it more expensive to hire people and makes it such that goods are more expensive. But importantly, it has to do with tariffs and the fact that you've seen an effective tariff rate increase from 2% to about 16.5%. That results in estimates from my colleagues at the Budget Lab at Yale, but they're consistent across the board, say that average household prices have gone up about $2,000 as a result of those tariffs themselves. And that is what people are feeling. And you can't tell them to feel differently because they go to the grocery store, they're buying Christmas presents for their kids, and they're seeing these higher prices.
That's all true, but the inflation rate over the last 12 months is 2.7%. That's one of the lowest inflation rates we've had. Now, Trump did make a big mistake. He said prices are going to fall.
You're talking about let me just be
the overall.
This was an issue in the press briefing. You're saying the average inflation rate
over the last 12 months,
averaging
is 2.7%.
Okay. So year over year in September, the inflation rate was 3%. So typically we use the year over year measure more than taking an average of whatever
Except that he
period
wasn't president.
but he wasn't president for the last 12 months. He was
No,
only
the
president
first
for
9 months of his presidency.
So that's why I'm just making sure that we're clear on that. But when you look at the trend of inflation, month to month, it's ticking up.
Actually ticking
So it's
down.
it's
No,
ticked
it hasn't.
ticked up.
It's ticked up, and it's ticked up precisely. I just want to think it's really important. When President Trump took office, inflation, which had been high, was actually on its way down, and the Fed was kind of fighting the last mile towards this 2% inflation target.
Inflation rate
What's
under
happened,
Biden president was 5.2%.
What's happened
for
is
2.7%.
no one is talking about. I just want to be.
87%
I think
increase in
it's important.
inflation prices that people are
And
complaining
nobody
about.
is disputing that inflation was high. Nobody is disputing that inflation was
is
high
that
under Biden. I don't think we
under
should fight the last
prices
war.
went up about 25% over the last 4 years. And so unless we have deflation, which would not be good
We
for
don't
the
want
economy, we don't. I agree with that. Prices are not going to go back to pre-pandemic
That's
levels.
true.
That's the reality. And so
Right.
that's the discrepancy is the economy is doing well under Trump. And I would say I'm actually much more optimistic about Republican policies. Democrats are proposing things like government-run grocery stores and free buses. What Republicans are doing is deregulating, cutting taxes, and I think in the coming months when people pay their taxes this year, they're going to be pleasantly surprised to have more money in their pocket. They're prioritizing innovation, artificial intelligence, things that will ultimately, over the next year, help people feel like they're living
No,
a better
I'm so
quality
sorry.
of life.
I think I'm the only person here who actually represents constituents and is beholden to them and they're struggling. I can tell you right now that we need 55,000 units of affordable housing for people who make $17,000 a year. Our minimum wage is $7.25. We have not seen an increase for decades. People are struggling. My
No one's
great
disputing that
my
people
great
aren't
aunt is deciding
struggling.
whether or not she's going to pay for medicine or pay for groceries. You cannot say that the economy is doing well when it is doing well for billionaires, but the consequences of the action are coming home to roost. Because you know what? Farmers have retaliated against this administration's actions, and you know what this administration has said is trying to do? Give billions of dollars to them. If things were going great for people, they wouldn't have to take those actions. And what Republicans have done is give more money to the rich, the most powerful, and the billionaires, and they've left working class people.
But Lydia, and also I just want to be precise. I agree that we don't want to see deflation. We do not want to see prices come down because that would mean that we're in a recession, we're in a downturn. But what we don't want to see is prices go up. And that is what has happened as a result of tariff rates that are higher than we've seen at any moment in the last century. And it's tariffs on literally everything that consumers buy. And you don't
Like
have to
gasoline.
believe the estimates
gas
that
prices.
come from my colleagues tonight. But just to be
The
clear, there are
gas prices are like 6 cents on the dollar less than they were a year ago. So what you're
We have the lowest gas prices.
I
And
know
they were as high as $4 a
numerically you're correct. But when Americans are paying like $3.01, and then a year ago they were paying $2.94, they're not coming home and saying, "Gosh, that is a huge amount."
How about the fact that the average family-
It feels basically the same when other things are going up. Gas prices are not going to be the panacea here.
But at the
on
center
this
of
issue.
at the center of it, it really
I'm
is.
just using
It's
it
not
as an
enough.
example.
I know,
Some
but
things are going
People,
up.
people don't have enough
Okay.
wages where they can.
real wages actually have
That's the
grown.
problem.
And 20 million Americans are going to see their healthcare premiums
Well,
more than double.
Gee, I wonder why that happened.
Let me
That was
play-
Obamacare, right?
Let me play
Yeah,
real
you
quick.
don't try to
Marjorie
overthrow
Taylor
it.
Greene,
Even trying to
she's talking
speak
about
to a group that
Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking here about what Trump is trying to do, what Caroline Levitt is trying to do, which is convince Americans from where they stand that everything is all right. Listen to what she said.
I think the president needs to be aware that he's a billionaire, president of the United States, and you can't gaslight people and tell them that their bills are affordable. And you can't tell them that the economy is an A+++. You just can't do that. And I think it's insulting to people's intelligence.
I think she's right there, but see, part of the problem is that Brother Trump just needs to get off of the symbolic crack pipe. He's out of touch, to use a wonderful song by Hall and Oates, who was Vanilla Rhythm and Blues Brothers. He's not sensitive to the plight of everyday people. But when you say he's a billionaire, you see, I don't think that money and class position determines the moral judgment of a person. You can be a billionaire and still be somebody concerned about poor people. The problem is if you're a billionaire and you're out of touch, then you're going to hear this kind of language. And it means then that just working people and other folk, we need to come together and
The
organize.
best thing to do to help those poor people is to provide them a job. We have 7 million job openings. In the
Jobs with a living wage.
7 million.
With a living wage.
Yeah, they
With a
are.
living wage.
All right,
With
Natasha,
increased minimum wage, that my brother was talking about.
Just real quick on a last word on this. I mean, I do think that the uncertainty of tariffs has not really been discussed tonight at this table because Americans understand that when businesses can't plan about what their input costs are going to be, whether they're even going to be able to sell the products that they used to because of tariffs, that's a negative hit on them. Many of those Americans are themselves small business owners. So, what is the impact of that kind of uncertainty?
The small business uncertainty index is at record levels. And the reason is exactly as Abby is describing. You have seen the effective tariff rate change in this administration on more than 80 days. And we are on the verge of likely seeing a Supreme Court decision that draws into question some 75% of the tariffs that have already been implemented. And you're already seeing conversations about other ways we're going to try to effectuate these same tariff levels. It makes it impossible for businesses to plan. Think
that is
about
all
what
true, I'll
types
say
of
in the
blue
comments,
lines they
but it's
want to
also
require.
true that Trump has used these threats of tariffs to get incredible trade deals with these companies. Japan said they're going to give hundreds of billions of dollars to the United States. We're going to see as much as $2 trillion.
But when
of
Americans
investment
start to
capital in
feel
the
that,
United
I think that's
States.
when
Because
you'll
he's used
see them.
tariffs as leverage.
When Americans start to feel that, you might see them factoring it in. But for now, it doesn't seem like
That's
they are doing that. Natasha Sarin, thank